The constant stream of leaks pouring out of the White House is reportedly becoming a major source of frustration for the Trump administration. So much so that Politico reports Press Secretary Sean Spicer sat down with his own staff trying to crack down on leaks coming out of the West Wing. Ironically, news of that meeting came out because of a leak. But despite his team's turmoil, Spicer downplayed leaks at Monday's press briefing.
Is there an internal leak inquiry right now?
Not that I'm aware of.
Politico White House reporter Annie Karni joins me now from Washington. So, Annie, you co-wrote a piece about this. What can you tell us about this meeting you reported on that Press Secretary Sean Spicer had with his staff?
He had an emergency meeting with about a dozen of his comm staffers. He called them back into his office after a planning meeting they had had where something immediately leaked and was a negative story. This time, however, he didn't tell them why they were coming in. And when they came in, he had everyone drop their phones, personal phones to whatever they were carrying, on a table for a phone check. He was accompanied by 2 lawyers from the White House. The phone check was to see who was using encrypted messaging apps like Confide and Signal, and to check, to try and crack down on who might be the leakers. And his reasoning was that you should have nothing to hide because people shouldn't be leaking. I think that what Sean Spicer's argument would be is that, he can't run a comm staff when everything out of a meeting immediately shows up in Politico or another publication. The irony is that this meeting to crack down on leaking leaked to me.
Yeah, that is really the irony here, Annie.
Yeah.
And these random phone checks, to be clear, was this a one-time thing, or is it your understanding that these are things that could actually happen, from this point on, these random phone checks of White House staffers?
I don't know what's going to happen now. All I know is this one meeting that I reported on. But I was told also that Sean Spicer in this meeting kind of warned them, like, if I read about this in the newspaper, I'm going to go even further. So I don't know what happened in the White House today because it did leak. But he kind of warned that he would crack down even more.
Yeah, are there certain kinds, Annie, of leaks that they are more concerned about than others?
I think that if you go to the top, to what bothers President Trump, I think it's almost like the personal stuff that is getting to him more than probably more important national security leaks. But just, I think it feels like a violation of trust in the West Wing when personal details about staffers or details about the president leak out. I think that makes them all feel very insecure among themselves. So oddly, I think it's the more benign leaks that ruffle feathers there the most.
Give us some context, though, Annie. I mean, leaks in and of themselves are obviously not anything new, but give us some perspective here. What is it about perhaps the volume of leaks that we're seeing that some in the White House find so troubling?
Well, I don't know. I don't really know how to compare it to the volume of other leaks, but first of all, the White House is set up the system is set up so that there would be leaks. There are multiple rival power centers. There's Steve Bannon, there's Jared Kushner, there's Reince Priebus, there's Kellyanne Conway. So the system is set up that there would be people with allegiances to a different power center, and when there's a competition, then there is usually a motivation to leak if you're trying to push one person or the other. The other thing is that I think this is related to is just the distrust of the media and their whole war on the media. I think makes them even more upset about their own staffers leaking to the very outlets that they're calling the opposition party and calling fake news. And they've also notably, Donald Trump last week came out and said that no one should use background sources. Reince Priebus has said the same thing. And the White House also talks on background to reporters all the time. So I think these issues are all kind of related. That they consider that they're waging a war on the media, and we continue to get leaks from inside the House.
Right, and the very tactic that they decry is one that they themselves employ.
Exactly.
The use of background sources where you don't have officials' names attributed to various statements. Well, what is the mood like in the White House Communications Office since specifically this hunt for leakers began?
I think it's tense. I think people are worried about their future employment there. I think people are on edge. You know, in the story that I co-wrote with Alex Eisenstadt, my colleague, we reported that staffers have broke down in tears and been yelled at by Sean Spicer. I think, and to his credit, Sean Spicer's been doing the two jobs that are more than one-person jobs. He's been serving as communications director and press secretary. It's really inhuman to be able to do both. I think that's only added to the tension, but I think that people are on edge there. It's not a comfortable, happy place.
And an additional responsibility, then it sounds like it is also Sean Spicer's job now to crack down on these leaks.
Yeah, I think that, they have hired a communications director. They oddly haven't publicly announced it yet, but they're bringing in somebody who, it's a very different job. It's looking at larger long-term strategy. And the press secretary's job really is, the daily briefing takes a lot of, the morning is spent prepping for that, and then it's the full afternoon is spent answering reporters' questions. So a big chunk of the press secretary's day typically is preparation for the briefing. So this should free Sean up to do more of just that job. Perhaps it could change, but the comm shop of all the departments in the Trump administration seems the most insecure right now.
Well, your piece is a really interesting read, a peek behind the White House curtain. Annie Karni from Politico, thanks so much.